And you look at what Miami's done. I'll say this: Portland could learn a couple things from how Miami has done things there. That might be an article when the website launches. But you just look at the pieces they have around Jimmy Butler. You got Bam Adebayo, who's a good finisher around the rim, athletic big, and can pass. And then you got a bunch of shooters, just flat out shooters. You got a great secondary perimeter scorer in Goran Dragic, who had 25 points today. But then you got snipers like Tyler Herro. He struggled from three today, but we know he can shoot the ball. You got Duncan Robinson, who was one of the best three-point shooters this year. You got Kelly Olynyk, who's a big who can shoot. Even on to Myers Leonard, who hasn't been playing, but he's a big that can shoot. Kendrick Nunn can definitely shoot, and he provides a little bit of playmaking off the dribble and ability to score off the dribble. So just the way all the pieces on that team mesh together under a great head coach of Eric Spoelstra is resulting in a team that's 2 wins away from the NBA Finals. That's greater than the sum of their parts. Because if you just look at this roster on paper before the season, it's like, before the season, Tyler Herro hadn't played. He was the 13th overall pick. Duncan Robinson, nobody knew who he was outside like me and you, because we're basketball nerds. Kendrick Nunn, nobody really knew who he was outside maybe me and you. Like, you know, we kind of know these obscure players, but I don't blame people for not knowing who Kendrick Nunn or Duncan Robinson were. And Tyler Herro, 13th pick, and Bam Adebayo was one of the most improved players in the league. You could have made a case for him winning it over Brandon Ingram. So that's the thing. On paper, before the season, I was looking at this team like, I still only think they're a borderline playoff team. But the way they've come together and maximized literally every single player on that roster is one of the most impressive things I've ever seen in the NBA.
And they make a big trade for Iguodala, and I don't even think he played in the second half of the game tonight. But they might be regretting paying him $15 million next year, extending that contract when they traded for him.
We said they shouldn't. They shouldn't sign him for that contract. I don't understand why you needed to pay him a whopping $15 million. He only played 7 minutes tonight, had 0 points, 0 rebounds, 1 assist, shot 0 for 0 from the floor. So.
Yeah, Jay Crowder has turned out to be much more important for them.
I know. Jay Crowder has been playing really well in Miami compared to his couple previous stops. So that's the thing. They also have switchable defenders. All that shooting, but then they also have like really good defensive wings. Obviously starts with Jimmy Butler, who made a number of great defensive plays. He kind of took over that game defensively today, which, you know, oftentimes you talk about a star taking over a playoff game on the offensive end, a la CJ McCollum, Game 7 against the Nuggets. But Jimmy Butler took over that game defensively. It helped that he converted it into points, but it was impressive just to see the way he changed that game on that end of the floor.
He's so smart. It's kind of like, because Rondo did this to us in the Pelican series, he just like anticipates what's going to happen next so well. Like, he knows their offense just as good as the players on Boston do. So like he's able to get his hands and tip balls, and it's just it's not always a steal, but just disrupting the flow of their offense and stuff like that, to where you don't get a clean look or something. And he has so many of those plays throughout the game. But the improvement for Bam is what really set them over the top, because if they didn't get like him turning into an actual playmaking big, that team wouldn't be quite as dynamic. But that just shows you, if you utilize a playmaking big properly, how much he can transform a team.
God, I watch the way Bam plays for them, and it's just like, man, why can't Nurkic be that? Obviously, Nurkic is a little different. He's not quite as athletic as Bam is, but just in terms of the skill set, it's just like, I feel like Nurk could do a lot of the things that Bam's doing. I'm obviously really high on Nurk, and maybe I'm a little bit biased, but just like the passing, the rebounding, the finishing inside, and Nurk's three-point shot, I think, will be a weapon in the next year or two. And Bam just makes that team so much harder to guard because of the way they utilize him. It makes me a bit frustrated that we don't use Nurkic a bit more like how Miami uses Bam.
Yeah, Bam can dribble a little better than Nurkic, but yeah, overall, he's got off-ball movement to pass to, and that's something that we've been begging for for this team for years. But yeah.
And here's what I'll say about Miami. The difference, one of the biggest differences between Miami and us, right? Miami has great three-point shooters, but they play inside out. They attack and then collapse the defense and kick out to shooters. We play outside in. I think that playing inside out, one, it gets better shots because it's easier to shoot when the ball's coming directly out from the paint to you than from the side as you're running a flare screen or something. Two, it just makes you just so much harder to guard. It's so much harder to guard a team that's just constantly attacking. We'll throw it to a guy like Bam at the high post, has back screens, has cutters towards the rim. Sometimes a cutter is open, so the defense has to kind of rotate to help off that, and it leaves other guys open elsewhere. Just the way their offenses ran is beautiful, Like Jimmy Butler is obviously the guy that makes the offense go, and his playmaking and his slashing ability is phenomenal. But even without him on the court, they still get consistently good shots. And that's the thing. It's just a product of the way their offenses ran, and part of that starts with Bam being kind of a high post passer that's able to hit some of those cutters. Like they play inside out, and watching Miami just kind of, to me, just shows the flaws in Portland because they play outside in, and I've always said it needs to be less running around the perimeter, less perimeter based stuff. They need to try and get shots in the paint, especially if the three ball isn't falling. Because that's the thing with Miami, three balls isn't falling. They attack. They just go. They attack hard. And they get really good three-point shots because of that. With us, it's like if our three ball isn't falling, one, it's usually we're not getting good three-point looks because that's what we're settling for. And then two, like we can't adapt off the three-point line because we're outside in. And if the outside isn't working, then we're screwed. Whereas Miami, it's inside out. It's just so much more dynamic.
Yep, completely agree. And I'm always a fan of playing inside out. I guess that's kind of just my play style too. But yeah, like if you start hitting shots inside or getting a dynamic big like Bam going inside, it just opens up all the passing lanes. And when you're a good passer, like, because Nurk could sit there all day in the post and pass to people if there was off-ball movement and cuts and stuff like that. It would be easy for him. The game would be so simple, and it just blows my mind that we don't do that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But it's frustrating.
The thing is, I feel like when people hear inside out, they think, oh, that means posting up somebody, and then when they draw a double team, kicking it out. That's not even what I mean. Inside out means consistently trying to attack the rim unless you have an open three ball, because the thing is, if you consistently attack the rim, you're going to get open three balls just from collapsing the defense, right? Now, obviously, you do have to have guys that can attack the rim from the three-point line, but I feel like this is just kind of a hypothetical example, but like the difference between us and Miami is if Miami has a good three-point shooter that catches the ball and has a guy closing out hard on him, they attack that closeout and get into the paint and either get a shot inside or open up an even better three-point look. Portland, if it's a good three-point shooter that catches the ball and has a guy closing out hard on him, they shoot the contested three, even if it's 18-17 on a shot clock, which at times I'm fine. If Gary Trent Jr. is hot, CJ McCollum's hot, Damian Lillard's hot, like I'm fine with them shooting contested catch-and-shoot threes, but that's the thing, is just like more often than not, it hurts us, and then what's the excuse after games? It's, oh, we didn't make three-point shots, but and a lot of fans kind of defend our play style by saying, well, they just got to shoot better. They're missing shots. But those fans are missing the whole lead-up to what types of shots we're shooting and what types of shots we're getting. So that's the thing. That's the big difference between Miami. That's one thing that I think Portland could learn from Miami. Portland needs to be more dynamic and harder to guard in the playoffs, and they need to play more inside out. Inside means just attacking the rim, trying to get shots around the rim, having cutters to the rim, having off-ball movement to the rim, attacking closeouts and trying to get into the paint and collapse the defense. That is how I think the Portland Trailblazers would have been competitive against the Lakers if they did that. I think they could have maybe, if Dame doesn't get hurt, I think they could have at least gotten to 6 games if they did that. I think they would be much harder to guard in the postseason if they did that. Mm-hmm.
And we've been talking about this for years as well with CJ. When he gets to the free throw line, he draws the defense in, just like you're talking about. He commands so much respect. Like, people are watching him, the defense collapsed. It would be open if the offense was designed for him to get into the key to get others involved and pass out. It would be so much better, but instead it's like, okay, go score or whatever, and that's all he does for the most part. Is when he drives into those middle, he tries to create for himself. But if the philosophy was like changed to where Stotts was like telling them, when you drive, this is what we want to do to create the defense to collapse, so you have these avenues to kick out to shooters and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But instead, it's just like, please score. I don't have a way to design an offense to do anything else if you don't score.
I'm gonna bring up the clipboard really quick because like there's small things that Miami does well that I don't think Portland does well. So let me bring this up right here. Let me just set this up real quick. This is just a basic like off-ball thing that Miami does that Portland doesn't do, and it results in not only better three-point looks, but also better driving opportunities for the Heat. So let's just set this up like so. You know, whatever, that's good enough. So say Dame has the ball, or in this case it might be Jimmy Butler, whoever, right? Whoever has the ball and they attack. Like Jimmy Butler oftentimes will beat his guy off the dribble, same with Dame, and this guy will help over. Something Miami does is this guy goes up, right? Because this guy's helping from here. He's not going to... He's thinking his guy's here, because that's where his guy was when he started to help. As soon as this guy turns his head, Miami's guys relocate up here. This is Hero, this is Duncan Robinson, this is even Dragic. And this kick-out pass, A, the shooting guard doesn't know exactly where they are. B, it's further to run from here to here than from here back out to there. Like, it's just a little further to run. So Jimmy Butler will often kick to this guy and then, like, relocate around here, sometimes out of the three-point line. But, like, this is something that Dame should be doing. You know, if this Dame and CJ should be relocating up court like this, and Dame can kick him the ball and run through. And what this leaves... is this shooting guard's here, so he's closing out here. This leaves this whole lane open to drive, right? Not only is it further for the shooting guard to recover, so it might be a more open three-point look, this shooting guard was guarding a guy that was here who's now here, so the shooting guard is probably going to be closing out and giving up middle, right? If he closes out here, then CJ can drive. If Dame relocated there, CJ's able to beat this closing out shooting guard, then this point guard might get sucked in and help, and that's a kick out to Dame. Or this point guard is more worried about Dame. CJ can get downhill, force the center to help, drop-off pass. That is playing inside-out basketball, not selling for threes. That is kind of what the Miami Heat do. They're constantly probing. They're constantly setting themselves up to attack the rim. The thing, this is what the Blazers do more often than not. Right? You have Dame maybe get downhill, and the shooting guard will help over. And CJ won't move. CJ won't come up. CJ won't move. They'll kick out to CJ. This guy will close out. CJ will either shoot a contested three or just stop and stand there, let the shooting guard recover, and then CJ will go one-on-one. And it becomes iso ball. Like, it starts kind of the same way, but just from CJ not relocating up court, this is a harder three because it's more likely to be contested, but then also he doesn't really have a driving lane since this guy is able to close out straight on him. So that's the two, like, that's little differences between Miami's offense and Portland's offense that I've noticed that makes it so that Miami can attack the paint, even with guys that aren't like great attacking the paint. Even guys like Duncan Robinson are able to attack closeouts because they're able to relocate up and it gives up the middle of the floor. So that's the thing with Portland is I wish they did more of what Miami does. I wish they did what I illustrated in the first, the first sort of example, not the second example, because that's what they do. But that's the thing is like CJ will shoot that contested shot and miss it. And fans will say, CJ's just missing shots. They're not focusing on the little detailed things. Maybe because they don't know what to look for. Maybe because they haven't seen it out of a Portland team, but just watching this Miami team, I'm just noticing little things about their offense that are just absolutely non-existent in Portland's offense. And if Portland did them, their offense wouldn't struggle so much in the postseason. They'd be a lot more just a solid offensive team when it really matters.
Yep, completely agree. Nice breakdown.
So that's one thing they can learn from Miami. I have a second thing, and I've said this before. Neil Olshey doesn't work well around the fringes of the roster. You look at the last 2 years, the kind of fringe roster signings, fringe rotation signings. Mario Hezonja, Nick Stauskas, Anthony Tolliver, right? Going into the bubble, Jalen Adams. Who knows what was behind that. But you look at Miami, they have 2 role players, and Kendrick Nunn only played 5 minutes today, but he's been huge for them all season long. So has Duncan Robinson. Portland possibly could have had those guys if they wanted this summer, because those guys were unknown, undrafted free agents, right? I don't know how much of it is Miami realizing that Duncan Robinson and Kendrick Nunn were very underrated players and were just outright good, and it's either that and or Miami's really good at developing players, and they developed Duncan Robinson and Kendrick Nunn. But Kendrick Nunn and Duncan Robinson were great at the start of the season. So I tend to lean towards Miami is identifying guys who are underrated and bringing them in.
But to your point, all season, though, if Duncan Robinson and Kendrick Nunn were on the Blazers, they wouldn't even get a legitimate chance to play. So that's one thing. It's hard to blame Olshey for that, because you have a guy like Little, maybe even Trent might have been able to do more if he was given more of a role earlier in the season. But yeah, it's I don't know. It's
some blame lies with Stotts for sure. It's just and I was mad about this. What upside does Mario Hezonja bring you?
Yeah, the Tolliver and Hezonja and Stauskas, that was all.
They already have shown, Tolliver was solid in the past couple years, but he's getting up there in age, and he's so limited. It's for those 3 guys at the signings, when the signings happened, I hated those signings because it was Mario Hezonja sucks. He's not going to provide anything this team needs. And everybody said, oh, well, he played in Orlando, which is a bad franchise, so just wait till he gets in Portland. What did they say about Nick Stauskas? Oh, well, he played in Brooklyn and a tanking Philadelphia team, so once he gets to Portland, he's going to be a lot better, right? We hear that now about Aaron Gordon. Oh, well, he's been playing in Orlando. If he gets to Portland, he'll be given it'll be easier for him. He'll be in a good organization, so he'll automatically play better, right? We've heard that year and year after year. We've heard that so much. And it's just outright, Nick Stauskas sucks. Mario Hezonja sucks. Anthony Tolliver wasn't that good to begin with and was already declining. So when you make those signings, it's what is the upside there? There is none, because those guys aren't going to help you in a playoff game, right? And this team should be building towards, trying to win playoff games. And Mario Hezonja and Anthony Tolliver are not going to help you win playoff games at all. There's nothing.
Yeah, the only fringe signing that was good was the Seth Curry one, but he kind of screwed himself by only signing him to 1 year, and then he plays well, and then we're screwed because we don't have his rights to re-sign him. And
Seth might have only wanted a 1 year contract because he was hurt. That's why we got him so cheap.
Right.
Yeah. And he might have been thinking, I'm really good. I don't want to sign multiple years for only a couple $1 million. I'm going to take this 1 year, $2 million contract or whatever it was, and I'm going to ball out and earn myself a big contract, which is what he did. Also, there's injury uncertainty there.
Cent mentions Jake Layman. That's someone we could have kept instead of signing those guys. And he's one of those fringe players that could have taken another step this year.
See, that's more draft picks. Olshey is decent at drafting in the second round. I'm just talking about free agent signings.
No, I'm saying keeping him or not. If we would have kept him instead of Hezonja or Tolliver or whatever, yeah.
For sure. But it just comes down to his free agent signings around the fringes of the roster have never ever been good. Never been good. The only good one was Seth Curry, but Seth Curry had already proven, like, in spurts in the NBA that he could play. You look at Miami, they go out bringing Kendrick Nunn, undrafted free agent that nobody knew. Duncan Robinson, undrafted free agent that nobody knew unless they had watched some Michigan basketball because he played for Michigan. He wasn't even, like, the best player on Michigan. He was, like, a role player there. That's the thing. They bring in these guys, and they just two of the best undrafted free agents this year. Maybe the top two best undrafted free agents that kind of broke out this year, that kind of came out of nowhere. You look at a guy like Bam, who they got with, I keep mixing up where they drafted him and Harrow. They drafted Tyler Harrow and Bam Adebayo with the 13th and 14th picks. That's great value at the end of the lottery. Like, I wasn't high on Tyler Harrow, but it's obvious, like, that's good value for where they picked him. Like, he's going to be good there. Like, he's already a contributor. He played 32 minutes tonight. Had 5 assists, didn't shoot the ball well, but had 5 assists, 9 rebounds, 11 points.
His defense been okay in this series, too.
And that's the thing, is just like, they get good value with their draft picks, but then they've supplemented that with getting guys on the free agent market for vet minimums that I don't even know how many other teams wanted them, and they've turned them into really good role players. Obviously, that's part player development, but that's part just identifying guys that are undervalued on the free agent market. Olshey doesn't do that. He goes out and signs Hazonia. He goes out and signs Stauskas. He goes out and signs Tolliver. And that's the thing. It's like, I would rather have a guy who maybe there's a 5% chance he could help us win a playoff game, like a Duncan Robinson or something. I don't know. I'd rather have that than a guy who there's a 0% chance that Mario Hazonia was going to help us win a playoff game. I said that at the start of the year. Everybody was kind of high on him. I was saying there's 0% chance that he, like, I was not on that bandwagon, and now everybody else sees that. Like, I would rather have a guy who's unknown, unheralded, but hasn't really gotten a shot yet, that might be a guy that once he gets a shot and once he, ends up in our system, his first shot in the NBA is with us, maybe he could help the team than a guy like Hazonia, Tolliver, or Stauskas, who would never help us win a playoff game.